Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build. Today we are finally getting back to the Disney save and doing a Disney save speed build. I'm really excited to show you guys what I am doing today, but I do want to talk about a couple of other things really quickly just to start out the video. So I should first probably tell you that this is actually going to be a residential lot, and this is for the Bimbettes, which are the three village girl characters from Beauty and the Beast that wear like the three colored dresses. They're triplets, they look identical. They're sort of villain characters, although I did read up on like their wiki page and stuff, and turns out they're more of just like adversaries to Belle. It's not necessarily that they are like evil characters, but they do tend to become obsessive over Gaston and like do whatever they have to do to get him to be a part of their life, and whatever that causes Belle, I think that that could be seen as like the villain aspect of that. However, I've actually written my own backstories for these girls, and they are going to be a part of the save. Obviously, if we have a residential, we are going to do a creative sim as well. That will be out on Monday, and I want to say I'm sorry for the spacing on the Disney save videos a little bit, just because for about 2 weeks I did do basically nothing but the Disney save, and then I took a break from it, and I realized of course that that was probably not the best idea. It was a little bit of a burnout, and it just made me feel like I was ready to move on to a different neighborhood or do like a different idea, because the problem with this, it's not really a problem, but the thing that happens is basically this world, Willow Creek, that I'm working in is going to feel very similar, and that's done on purpose. It's meant to feel cohesive and like it has a theme, and then when we go to a different world, we're going to get very different builds, but all of those builds are going to feel very, very similar to one another. And I always wanted to do this world by world. So once we finish Willow Creek, we will move on to a new world. I haven't actually determined which one that is going to be, but we are getting closer, I would say, to moving out of Willow Creek. But everything I build in Willow Creek does have a similar essence to it, and I really was itching to build something else, which is why I ended up building my rainbow crystal house, and then I built like a pirate home, which a lot of you were like, oh, I thought this was for the Disney save for Captain Hook, but don't worry, rest assured, I've already planned on doing something specifically for Captain Hook in Sulani. Maybe two things. I have two ideas that I'm kind of working with, but I will talk about that when it gets a little bit closer to the actual time. So I just felt like I really wanted to build something else, and then I put it off for quite a while, and I built some other stuff, and I'm also in the process of pre-recording for some things that are going on in my personal life that are going to make it so that I can't really do voiceovers or any other kind of recording with sound for a while. So I'm basically going to have to get a month ahead of schedule, which is, it sounds like a lot, and it is. I have to work pretty hard to make sure that that is going to be the case, but I'm working Disney save videos into that process as much as possible. I don't want them to see, like, I want to be able to put my full effort into them, and if I don't feel like doing one, I really don't want to force myself to do one, because I won't be proud of it, and I won't want it to be a part of the save, and I don't know that I want any builds that I'm not super proud of to be a part of the save file. It feels like it's really supposed to be something that I'm super happy with at the end of the day, and obviously there are going to be things that I like more than others, but I feel like I just really want to make sure that I put my full effort into every single thing that I'm putting out, particularly for this, because this is going to be, I feel like this is going to lead me into The Sims 5. Like, we are going to get a Sims 5 announcement by the time that this is fully completed, and that means that this is going to be like my last big project in The Sims 4. Of course, when Sims 5 comes out, I will probably still build in Sims 4, but I can definitely see that that game will become my new main game, depending on, obviously, there's a lot of things that we don't know. Obviously, when a base game comes out, it is usually way less than what you have for like a previous game. So I can definitely still see myself building in The Sims 4 from time to time, and especially at first, but as is like the natural transition of time, I feel like I probably will move fully into Sims 5, and this will be like my last big thing, and I just really want it to have my full dedication on it. So yes, I took a break. I'm really sorry, but we are going to get back into it. I have this one and then the Creative Sim coming out on Monday, and then next week I actually will not have a Disney save Save video because I'm doing a collab with a bunch of other incredible building simmers and a lot of other people. And that kind of took up my slot for that. And then the following week, we will be back to Disney Save, and you can expect them to be pretty regular as long as I don't have any more burnout or anything else kind of going on in between, but should be pretty regular towards the end of the week, maybe like Friday, Saturday-ish. So I knew I wanted to put out a Disney Save speed build, and I have this whole Willow Creek is like basically planned out. There are a couple of slots that I have empty still, and I haven't really come up with exactly what I want to do with them. But one of the concepts that I really liked the idea of, and I toyed with this for a really long time, and I know some of you are not going to like this because it doesn't necessarily fit into exactly what you think that you might want to do for something like this, but let me explain. So, I wanted to do a Belle's Village-esque type of neighborhood, and I wanted to include a lot of Beauty and the Beast characters. So I was trying to think of where would be the best place to put that, and a lot of you right away are going to say Windenburg, obviously, and that was my first reaction as well, because Windenburg has the aesthetic of basically what I'm building right now. There are a lot of towns that are already determined that look very similar to this, and it would fit in really, really nicely. But I actually have the longest list of stuff that I want to do in Windenburg. I want to do castles there. A lot of the Disney princess stuff specifically, like very, very Disney princess stuff, is going to go in Windenburg. And the list of movies I have for builds that I want to do there is the longest that it is. So it's a pretty big world, and there are a lot of lots available. So I feel like I will be able to get most of it done. But one of the things I knew pretty much right away that I wasn't going to be able to do was Belle's Village, because it was just going to take up an entire neighborhood where I really, really needed it for some of my other ideas. So rather than cut the village, I decided it would be cool to put it in the bottom corner of Willow Creek, because I can do like a whole old school little village over here, and we can do some Beauty and the Beast characters that might have been cut from the original save file, and it feels kind of cool because it's like if Belle's Castle is in Windenburg, then that's sort of like the distance between Willow Creek and Windenburg is like Belle's Village is over here, and then we've got Windenburg where the castle is. So it feels like they're separate from one another. There is like a distance between them, and you would have to travel obviously to get between the two of them, rather than having like the castle there and then the village right next door, which isn't exactly how the movie does it. So it felt really, really interesting to kind of separate the two of them. The one problem I'm obviously facing with building it over here is that this neighborhood is a little bit too modern for what I'm doing, but I did kind of decide that that is one of the things that I'm just going to have to understand that I can't change, and I guess that you guys have to understand that I can't change, because all of the worlds have backgrounds, and they're not built to do a Disney save. They're built to be whatever the Sims team wanted them to be. So you've got things in the background that are not going to be accurate to the movie. You've got placements and trees and things that are not going to feel totally accurate. Up until this point, we've been really, really lucky because I've been doing Princess and the Frog builds. So everything feels very Louisiana, and it fits really well into Willow Creek because Willow Creek is based after Louisiana. But when we try to do anything else, it's not going to feel exactly right. So I decided that this was more like an old school village that had just stayed through time in this neighborhood. So this neighborhood is like a little village area, and it's just historically accurate to when it was originally built. And although like the surrounding area has continued to get a little bit more modern and industrial, this village has stayed very much the same, and so have the people, therefore, that have lived here as well. To get into the actual build a little bit here, the Bimbettes were so fun for me to write as characters. Wait until you guys see when I have the whole website up and everything. I already have like mock-outs of how I'm going to put their character bios and all this stuff. I had so much fun writing their characters, and I really tried to make them interesting because they're not super interesting characters in the movie. They feel just like background characters, and there's little bits that you get about the three of them. Obviously, you know that they are obsessed with Gaston and that they want to marry him, but One thing I think I never really thought about as a child is like, how does that affect the relationship between the three of them, knowing that each of them want the same thing? Do they fight a lot? Do they not fight a lot? Do they hope that they can all just marry him? Like, how does that go? So I really had a really great time writing the three of them out. They are definitely very cryptic and villainous compared to what we've got going on for some of the other characters that I've done so far. But in comparison, we have Tiana's parents and Naveen and Tiana. So they're just, you know, like your typical mostly good characters. So this was my first opportunity to really write something that felt kind of evil. And I feel like I did take an evil route with them. I will go into it a little bit more in the CreativeSim video because I don't want to spoil it. But it's also sort of like a cryptic evil. It's very like mysteriously evil and background evil. Like they don't want people to know that they are like not nice people. So they do things kind of in the shadows. And in return, I really didn't want their house to feel like very villainous. It has to fit into the village. I actually have quite a few other village houses, obviously, that are going to be going around here. I won't spoil it, but we are going to put Belle's original village house pretty much in this neighborhood, which is where her father is going to live and be a part of the save file, and then Belle will actually live in the castle. So it has to fit into the general look of the rest of the houses. They all will look very similar to this one. I'm obviously going to build them a little bit differently. The one from the movie that I can do for Belle, that one I have direct replica of. I can actually just look at the movie and see exactly what her house looks like and then build from there. I probably will have to make it a little bit smaller because the lots over here are a little bit tiny. But for the Bimbettes, it was, you never really get to see their home. So I ended up just looking up a lot of similar houses in the village and picking something that I really liked the shape of. I really liked the idea of the archways that go through the middle and sort of cut the houses and work as pathways for other people to be able to travel through the village setting. I think that's such a cool concept because it's like, it's understanding that you live in a community where like you have to do things to your home to basically make it the most functional for everybody else. Like it's the definition of a tight-knit community because yes, this is your house, but you literally have an archway underneath it where people are traveling through and are probably going to be expected to travel through. So the lot itself is a little bit more closed off. Obviously, I did put a little bit of fencing and there is an area out back to wash clothes and a well and stuff like that. So it is very much like more for the Bimbettes, and that's 100% because obviously the game is designed where basically Sims won't roam on other people's lots too much. You will get people that show up obviously and like sit at your door and want to come in, but for the most part it's not going to feel like a village setting in the same way that it might in the movie. So it's more for them than anything, but I really liked the design of it and it created this really interesting layout that I was super happy with as well. It basically had like all these little rooms downstairs and I was like, oh my god, what am I even going to do with these? But then I realized I had 3 of them, so they're perfect for the 3 Bimbettes. So they each have their own door and they all have separate basement bedrooms where they would have to leave in order to go to the upstairs portion. But I really liked that because it felt like similar to maybe back then you would have an outhouse instead of having a bathroom in the home. Now I did put a bathroom in this because I didn't have a lot of room, to be honest. I wanted it to be in the home. But maybe for some of the other ones we might do the idea of an outhouse because it is something that was a little bit more per the time period where you would have to probably like leave certain sections of the house to get to the other one, go outside. It's gonna be okay. But I really like it. I already set the main door as like the front door up top and coordinated all of the rooms per color for the different Bimbettes, and you're gonna have to excuse me on their names. Actually, I will try and look it up right now as I'm doing this voiceover because they all have very similar names, and the only distinction is the color between them that you can actually tell who is who. Now, when it comes to their CreativeSim, I did make their faces a little bit different from one another. It's so subtle, I don't think most people will probably be able to tell the difference anyway, so the only way is their outfits. But Claudette is the one who wears red, Laurette is the one who wears yellow, and Paulette is the one who wears green. And I was also wondering if they were just friends and they were like, oh, let's dress like one another and do our hair identical and we all happen to have blonde hair kind of a deal. But turns out they are triplets according to the Disney wiki page about them. So I did make them triplets in my save file as well. One, because I couldn't figure out how many more opportunities I would have to do like triplets. And I really like the concept of 3 like kind of bratty triplet girls living in one house together and fighting over one guy. I feel like that's such a fun game you could play and such a fun like family or storyline to dive into, and a lot of diversity when you play this save file. Like that's what I want it to feel like. If you feel like doing something that's really family oriented, straightforward, you've got a kid and you're trying to take care of it, then you've got certain families where that's appropriate. If you want to go kind of wild and crazy and put curses on people and be super evil, then you've got houses where that's appropriate. And then this one, we've got 3 really young girls, no parental figures whatsoever, all kind of snobby, all kind of nasty, and their only goal in life is to marry a guy that will never marry them back and literally follow him around town. I just love it so much. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So the bedrooms I kept pretty simple. I did feel like they probably wouldn't have a ton of furniture. It seems to be that either in this time period, your house is super overcluttered with tons of stuff that you will never ever use. And for that, I think of Belle's house because of her father and all of like the tech and the clockwork and all of the stuff that he works on. Or I think of simplicity, and certainly like you can't afford most things, so you just have the basics. So that's basically what I put in every room. A little bit of hints of their personality here and there, but honestly I was more worried about colors and the time period and simplicity. And you'll even see, I think it was in Claudette's room, I wanted to put makeup on the table, but there was like this object that had makeup and a hairdryer attached to it, but obviously a hairdryer not super accurate for what we're going for, so I ended up covering up just the hairdryer with stacks of towels and stuff. So I'm trying the best that I can to keep it a little bit accurate to like whatever specific time period we're going for. Also the region, this being like France in particular, I'm trying. I'm definitely not an expert in any regard, and I know I'm going to make mistakes from time to time. And you also have to think about what's going to be the most playable. I have really, really wanted to do some really interesting things as far as like stoves go, and make some mock-up stoves that look super cool and like they would fit into the time period, but they're not going to work. So I have to think about what's actually going to be playable, and I end up just using some more older looking furniture rather than worrying about too much else. But I also really like to try something new with every single build, and for these guys I was really struggling with what can I do in here that is going to feel really, really good for their characters. And as a future side note, I should probably write the characters before I do the homes, because I ended up coming up with really cool stuff for their actual characters, and it would have been helpful when I was designing the house, but instead I did it opposite, so I think I'm going to do it the other way from now on. And I ended up just not really knowing what to do, like really keeping it very simple, stacking up some furniture and like trying some different things, but ultimately it didn't end up working out. And then I also realized, particularly in this kitchen, that I didn't have a bathroom in the house, and I wasn't planning like a designated spot for one, and obviously you need that. So I decided to cut the kitchen sort of in half so that we could put a bathroom in that back corner there instead of having the miscellaneous stuff. And it works really well. It flows really well, and the screenshots actually came out pretty decent. So if you stay until the end of the video to check those out, those are really where you can see like the aesthetic of the home. I feel like it fits super, super well. But as far as the rest of the house goes, again, I really wasn't sure, like, what can I do about it to make it feel like it's their home. And at one point I did think maybe overdoing the color scheme of like the green, yellow, red, but I didn't want it to feel super weird looking. I don't know how to describe it other than that, because I feel like red, green, yellow furniture pieces and like in your house could end up being such a modern thing, and it could easily start to look really cheesy and cartoony, and that's not necessarily what I'm going for. I'm trying to find a really good mesh between this is a Disney movie and this is something that people would actually want to live in, because I can go over the top with like a lot of the more gaudy types of objects. And I even look back now at my Princess and the Frog mansion, which actually I do need to talk about that really quickly. Some of you pointed out that I made a huge mistake with the Princess and the Frog mansion, and you guys are totally right. So basically what happened was I somehow mistakenly marked down that the reference mansion I was using for the Princess and the Frog was actually Tiana's mansion that had been made for a game that was separate from the movie. And I'm half right because they did use that in the game and I thought that it was her house, but it's not. It's actually Charlotte's house. But it was shown in like weird coloring and from a strange side angle that I didn't recognize it right off the bat. But one of you did right away and commented and let me know that it was a nice house, but it's probably actually not Tiana's home. And I think you're 100% right. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to work it into the Disney save because I love the home. I love the way it's designed and it actually fits really well into what happened in that house. I ended up doing like an upgrade to it and adding an atrium for Tiana to put like frogs and stuff in. And I felt like that would work because it's almost like Tiana bought the home from Charlotte and Charlotte moved into something bigger and better that was a little bit more her aesthetic and a little bit more pink. So I'm going to be doing another Louisiana mansion on the lot corresponding that is bigger and very similar to that one, but just a little bit better for Charlotte, and Tiana will stay in the original home. So I wanted to say that because just to clear that up in a video before I go on with any more. I'll talk about it more, I guess, in the Charlotte video. But that is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below. Are you excited for the Bimbettes? How do you think I did with their home? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.